there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to make these 3 adorable cards, and I had so much fun making them, and I really like the way they came out. I'm using a bunch of stamps from Paper Artsy that are sold at our sponsor, TopFlightStamps.com. Top Flight Stamps is an American company that searches the globe to find all the coolest rubber stamps all over the world and bring it back to us here in the United States. And these are so fun. I started off by stamping some of these images using Memento black ink. Now I'm using Memento ink because I'm going to use alcohol markers to color them. If you are going to use watercolor markers to color yours, make sure you use a watercolor appropriate paper and ink so the ink doesn't bleed. I like to fill up my paper, but I leave spaces around because what I like to do after I color, as long as my images have nice solid black lines around them, is I cut them out on my scan and cut machine. So you could even get them closer together if you're going to cut them by hand, if you're good at that sort of thing. I am not very good at scissors, so I like to use my scan and cut. Now these funny looking markers that I'm using are actually a fairly new marker to hit the market. They are the TriBlend brush markers by Crafter's Companion. They are a marker that has 3 different shades of a color in each marker. So this will have a light green, which I'm using right now to kind of prime the area. And then there's a dark and a medium green. So I tend to go all over it with the light, then I'll go ahead in my shadows with the dark, and then blend it in with my medium. And if need be, I'll go back in with a light to blend out that medium tone. It's a no fuss way to color images. Now there are some pretty big jumps on these new brush markers. I just want to let you know that in case you're used to the old TriBlend markers, which are a little closer together in color. And because there's a brush tip, you can take bigger jumps with the colors, but I wish they kept the colors a little closer together, I have to say, honestly. I have a full review on those markers on my YouTube channel if you want to check that out, but I'm just going to go through and color these images in. The key is just, if you don't get the blend that you like, just go over it again, and oftentimes you can smooth it out. But friends, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's handmade. You don't want it to look like you went to the dollar store and bought a printed card, do you? No, you want it to look handmade. So if you got a streak here and there, just, embrace it and go for it. Like this here, I actually wanted a streaky look because I was doing like a wood graining. So I kind of flicked the markers on in a streaky fashion. So, use that to your advantage and get the textures that you want. Not everything needs to be smoothly blended. Now, I also had this cute Paper Artsy set, and this is funny because this didn't immediately catch my eye, but they were wondering what I could do with it over at Top Flight, and I said, well, let me give it a try. So I thought I would also color these in with those same alcohol markers so that if I wanted to mix and match images from the other sets, I would have everything colored the same. And I have to say, the more I got used to the TriBlend markers, the better they blended for me. Like here, I was just doing this little section, and then I quickly realized that I could just color all the darks, all the mediums, and all the lights at once, and not even have to worry about it. I really like the roundness that it gives the legs, because when you have the shadows on the side and you have the highlight in the center, it just makes something look more like a cylinder. Try it the next time you're coloring like a tree trunk or something. I think it gave it a really neat effect, and honestly, it was really fun to color. So that's the other thing I want to recommend. If you have these markers or any other alcohol markers, you'll get better the more you get used to them. Even switching between marker brands. So like if you're used to using Copics and then you try a different brand, there still will be a learning curve. It's not going to be as steep as never using markers and then trying a brand of markers, but switching from brand to brand can can take a little bit of getting used to. So be sure to give it enough time. You're going to get better the more you get used to it. Here I'm going to show you how I made my slimline card. So this is a piece of cardstock, and what I did was I cut it to 8.5 by 7.5 and folded it in half, so I had a 8.5 by 3 3/4 piece of cardstock. I did that twice, so I would have a layering and a overlay for 2 pieces. And then that leftover piece is 3.5 inches by 8 inches. So when you take 2 pieces of cardstock, right, you get 2 cards worth. Does that make sense? I hope so. So here you can see how the layers would line up. Now, I don't have any fancy slimline dies, so I'm going to be using my regular square dies. So what you want to do is you want to line up your dies. Now, I'm using a centering ruler, and this one's by See-Through Ruler. Can you see it? It's very clear. It's kind of like a clear blue. What you want to do is cut your biggest window from the center, and then you cut the other two from the sides, and using that centering ruler, which has a 0 point in the center, makes it really easy to line everything up. I hope that makes sense. Give it a try, you'll see. Now on the back of this, I put some foam tape that I had cut lengthwise on a piece of wax paper so my scissors didn't get sticky, and that's just going to give me a little gap. I'm using the really thin stuff there, so it just gives me a little airspace so I can tuck things underneath. I thought this witch was really kind of chic and stylish, so I wanted to kind of color her as a sassy witch lady, and I use as you could see, I used those markers for that. Now I had a die cut of a witch hat, and I thought that would be really cute to use instead of the one that came with the kit, because I thought the one that came with the kit would be really cute on the cat there. So again, I kept repeating the same colors. I used the same green, red, and purple throughout on both images because I wanted to kind of cross-pollinate and get all those colors used. Now I wanted to make this sentiment match the card. I thought the white looked a little too stark, so what I did was I just took those markers, same markers I was using, colored it all over the light color, and then added some of the darker colors to the edges just to give it a little bit of dimension. So don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to make any of your embellishments or anything you've stamped matching. As long as you keep repeating the same colors, you're going to get a chic look. It's when you go with every color in the box, you get kind of a discordant look. Now, after I had everything assembled on there, as you can see, I added some die cuts. That grass and the witch hat die was from an old Stampendous stamp set that I had. And after I got a bunch of things glued down there, I just flip it over and trim off the excess. It's a little bit easier to do it from the back side. You get a neater look. So there's a quick tip there. Now here I'm trying to salvage this little blob of glue by picking it up on this spider die cut, but I use the type of glue that never really dries. It's the kind that dries sticky, so like it is sticking to my fingers, and I'm like trying to hold it down with wax paper because it keeps pulling up and sticking to my fingers, and like everything I touch, just like I've got the Midas touch except a glue touch, and everything I touch is like sticking to me. So I had to completely abandon this for a moment and wash my hands. It was quite a scene. And then I came back and I decided to carry on with the card. I found some cute rhinestones to put on the brim of her hat. Those are from Hunky Dory, also from topflatestamps.com. And because that spider was kind of sticky because that glue got on top of it, I'm using some metallic gilding rub-ons. It's like a gilding wax type of thing. I rubbed that over the top of the spider to give it a little shimmer and to make it not sticky. So since I did that in one area, I had to do that on other elements as well. So I used a little bit of gold on the moon, and I used a little bit of silver on the bat. Now I'm using a little bit of green gilding paste on the grass. And this is from the company called Craft Tea Products, and I've got it back at a scrapbook shop probably about 15 years ago. Oh gosh, probably longer than that. And man, those things last so well. If you have any of those in your stash, dig them out, have fun with them. They work so well. And there you can see the finished card. I think it's so cute. I did try to get this little owl to work in there too. That was from an old die set I had from a long time ago, but I thought it was cute, and I just didn't find a place where I wanted it. So, although I guess it would have looked all right there, but I don't know. It just looked a little too cutesy, I guess. I don't know. And so I thought I would maybe try to get some more of those little skulls in there. They kind of make me laugh when they're peeking around corners and things. Ultimately, though, I went with a spider, and I cut some of those out with an outline. That was because it was those first things I stamped. And the other ones that I cut for this card didn't have an outline, so it does kind of look a little weird. So that's why I wanted to make sure I had a few of the images that had the outline cut on them, just to help integrate it, help it not seem like it was just kind of like an outlier, I guess. So there would be a tip. If you're making a card, cut everything with the same border. That's a nice thing about a scan and cut, is I can choose to cut on the lines or with a border of my choosing, which you wouldn't get if you had a physical die, which is, just something to think about. It's not for everybody, but I certainly get a lot of use out of that machine, and I recommend it. It just, as long as you don't mind the tech learning curve. I thought I would dress up this business envelope to be a little bit spooktacular, and also so that if I mail this to somebody, they don't think it's a bill. And so I just stamped on that cute kind of primitive moon and bats and just colored them in and added some little whimsical purple clouds there, really, really light purple clouds. And there, I don't think that will get mistaken as a bill in the mail. And there you can see, it's neat. That's what I like about the slimline cards, is that they fit a regular envelope, but I don't like, having to buy special things for them. So by purchasing, you know, my normal dies, using my normal dies I already have to decorate them. I think that's the best of both worlds. You get to try the trend and you can make it work for you. Now we're going on to a 5x7 card, and I've just got a 5x7 piece of cardstock here, and I've torn a piece of paper, just a scrap, so that I can portion off areas. Now this is an idea that I had and I couldn't wait to try it. I wanted it to look like the whole background is kind of collaged and stitched together, kind of like Frankenstein. Because I thought this is fun, because I got a zombie stamp and a witch stamp, and I didn't know exactly what I was going to use there, but I thought it would be a really cool motif, kind of like Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas, the Sally character, how she's all stitched together, very patchworky. That's the look I wanted to go for. So I'm just moving my little paper masks around, and I'm inking up the areas and just trying to build kind of like a quilted pattern. Also, do you ever notice when you drive around, if you're in the countryside, you drive around in autumn, at least in New England here where we've got the seasons, there, you know, it almost looks like a quilt when you go over the hills and you see all these like batches of like fields and trees and stuff. It just looks like a big quilt. It's so pretty. So now that I've got that all inked up, what I'm using is just a paper piercer to poke holes, and those are going to be like the stitched holes, because I really wanted this to look Frankenstein-y. I don't know if you really need to go to that step, but I thought it would be kind of cool. Although now I wish I had done the lines first, because as I was trying to draw dot to dot, my pen, it was very awkward to kind of get my pen to hit the holes. The pen tip kept getting stuck in the holes. So maybe draw them first and then poke the holes at the end of each stitch. I don't know, I guess it doesn't really matter. I did take a marker and define my little lines a little bit more. So I used a purple marker in the sky and a green line marker in the grass area just to define it a bit. But I really think it's cute, and this could be done for a quilt background if you did it a little bit more neater and like more kind of prissy looking. I kept it really rough because I want it to look very surgical and Frankenstein-y. And I'm using little cloud and moon die cuts that were from like decades ago, or at least a decade ago, because I thought they were just kind of whimsical and cute. And how many Halloween themed dies do you really need? You know, you use them once a year. And then I trimmed down my panel and put it on a 5x7 card with some adhesive, and I really like the way that looks. And I'm trying to figure out exactly what I want to do for placement here, because this is one of those situations where I colored all these pieces and I can't fit them all in. So I decided to just go with the witch, the wooden cross, gravestone, and her cauldron, and then some of the skulls and spiders. And then I had these, I had made a template for that die cut out of a leftover piece of green, but then I realized that I could actually use those bats, but then I just didn't like the green on their own. So then I found some extra black bats that I had already cut, and I layered them up, and I like that little green outline. I think it's kind of cute. So sometimes just using your supplies in new ways is just kind of fun. And why not? Better than throwing away those scraps. Put them on a card, you know, experiment, see what you can do. Now, this is one of the serendipity papers I made at the beginning of quarantine. I did a big video on it, on using up all of my scraps. And I thought it was kind of a fun juxtaposition to have this crazy feminine paper next to that zombie girl there. I wanted to make it match a little bit better, and I love the Frankenstein idea, and I was wondering how it would look if I did that on the pattern paper. I didn't poke holes this time. That's really thick because I have so many layers of pattern paper there. So I just inked it up with colors like what's on her skin, the green and the blue, and then drew the stitching lines. And I think that's really cute. And I think the fact that I had the white outline when I die cut these stamps, it helps it stand out. And then I just went with kind of a teal colored, no I didn't, I went with a lime green colored background. I was trying to decide between the skin colors, which ones I wanted. And I think that's kind of primitive and just kind of sweet and homespun and kind of cute. That would be definitely appropriate. You could send to a kid, I think, for Halloween. And there you have it. There are my 3 cards. I had so much fun with these. I love Halloween. I hope you enjoy these projects, and I hope you check out toplightstamps.com. I'll have all the supplies linked down below so you can find them. And that way you've got time to get these supplies in and make some cards before the holiday. So happy Halloween, and until next time, happy crafting.